Oh yeah, Star Wars. Other than Mandalorian, haven't talked about it a lot. I wonder what. Oh, that's right. Rian Johnson happened to it. Yeah, yeah, and his brilliant film, The Last Jedi. Well, after going through all that nonsense and how it just destroyed the Star Wars franchise and people's attempt at it, well, I can't say anyone actually ever defended it. They just attacked everybody else and said it subverted your expectations, which, yes, it did. I thought it would be good. It wasn't. But one of the things about it was that it was clear by Rian Johnson's own responses to all of this and his explanations for the film and so on and so forth, he was completely the wrong man to be handed any Star Wars film. Certainly the wrong one to write a script for it. And again and again and again, he would reveal things that I have to conclude that he didn't watch any Star Wars films before it. It seems kind of ridiculous. He's claimed he was a fan and all this sort of stuff. And maybe he was a long time ago and that sort of thing. And it's been a while. But he completely did not understand the characters and the story set down. And the idea that, well, look, he's an artist. He had to approach and pursue and be honest to his own vision and whatnot. You were doing chapter 8. It's a little late to suddenly rewrite the whole story with pretty lackluster, if that, explanations for character motives in there. So, of course, the most obvious one was what happened with Luke Skywalker in the story. But suddenly Rian Johnson came up again, where else, on Twitter, and people were asking him questions and stuff. But the main one that came about was some guy named Darth Boring. Said, did you ever consider Anakin's ghost showing up to speak with Luke and or Rey? Yeah, Anakin is one of these things. Some of the like the art of a Force Awakens book shows they had considered these scenes where Anakin's Force ghost would appear, and it's one of those things that I think, myself included, wanted to see, especially have Luke interact with him. But it didn't happen in that movie, and it didn't happen in this one. So he responded, and he says, briefly, so I'm assuming he briefly considered having Anakin show up. But for the tree burning scene, and that was at the old Jedi temple where Luke's about to destroy all the ancient texts and all this stuff, and then Yoda appears and ends up burning it with a lightning bolt. I didn't know Force Ghosts could do that, but I guess they can. Anyway, so that was the scene he thought about putting Anakin in, but then he explains why he didn't. He says, but Luke's relationship was with Vader, not really Anakin. He says, which seems like it would complicate things more than that moment allowed. Yoda felt like the more impactful teacher for that moment. Oh man, this is the whole Luke Skywalker story. He completely missed. He doesn't understand it, had no idea. The whole point of Luke Skywalker was the salvation of Anakin Skywalker. And that's what Luke believed in. That's what he pursued. He went through the ringer and his hero's journey, how he developed and became the hero at the end there. And against all odds, risking everything to save a man he never, in truth, never really knew. He had this fantasy version of his heroic father. Turns out it was sort of true. Anakin had been a hero at one time, but then became the villain. And he had to go through all of that, and still, despite everyone saying couldn't do it, just kill the Emperor and, defeat Darth Vader, kill him if you have to. All this stuff, and Obi-Wan telling you he can't be saved, Luke, it's hopeless, don't do it. But Luke believed in it. Luke had maintained his faith against all odds and against all the temptations, the dark side, and all this sort of thing, and overcomes. That's the story of Luke Skywalker. Of course, Rian has to ignore that because then his story of Luke Skywalker makes no sense whatsoever, considering what happened between him and Ben Solo, who became Kylo Ren. So the brief little scene where Luke's considering to be a child killer, and because he had a vision that Ben Solo was going to be bad, and that he was turning to the dark side, and all this stuff, and he decides, well, I guess I'll just kill him, before it happens. No, that's not what Luke Skywalker would do, considering what he did with a man that he didn't really know entirely. He knew Anakin in the sense of that's who he wanted to save. He knew Darth Vader when he understood the full story of his father. Darth Vader was a myth. It wasn't real. This was this frightened, terrified soul trapped inside this mockery of himself within that monstrous suit that exuded all this power and everything, and he threw people around and all that, but in the end he was just a small, at that point, a very broken man, and in the end he finally rose to be heroic and defeat his fears and defeat the Emperor and save his son. Because it turns out love was more powerful than the Force. And that's how that works out. The idea that Luke would give up that quickly on his nephew, a boy he knew since he was born, his sister's son, and do that is just so stupid and really terrible. Just a terrible idea. And so, if you're going to go there, you need a hell of a lot more than the time you spent on that within that movie. And you just threw a few little flashbacks in and figured that was enough. It was lazy and terrible. And, of course, the big problem right off the bat. He didn't know the story. He did not know this character. He had every opportunity to understand it. He had the man who helped create Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, right there telling him, this isn't it. This isn't right. He wouldn't listen because, by now, it's pretty good conclusion that Rian Johnson is a very arrogant man. So can't take criticism whatsoever. And that's his problem. But in the end, this goes to show that he was the wrong guy for the job. And this keeps happening with a lot of these franchises. It's very obvious with something like Star Trek, with Star Trek Discovery, where it's clear people in charge have no idea what Star Trek is, or or probably even worse, hate it and want it to be something else. But they mostly just want to write soap operas, which I guess if soap operas paid a little better, maybe they would, and leave Star Trek alone. I don't know. But nobody there seems to care about Star Trek. And here you had a group that really did not care about Star Wars. It's always about, I'm justifying my lack of interest and lazy approach to work with messaging and statements and whatnot like that, and that's what Kurtzman does with Star Trek. It's a platform for important social issues, messages, and whatnot, as if he's the brain that's going to preach that. I don't think so, and certainly not with Star Wars either. It was all very superficial. Oh, look, we had this cast member in that one, and it's really the pandering that becomes quite insulting. And on top of all that, it's superficial because they got nothing. There was no truly inspired narrative and whatnot, and didn't even do the basic work of what this story was. So there you go, just another little tidbit. My advice to Rian Johnson is to shut the door on Star Wars and move on, and don't ever talk about it again, because it just won't serve you at all. I don't know what he'll do next. I don't care to ever see any film with his name on it after all this. But, that's his business. So anyway, there you go. My 2 cents on Rian Johnson's latest revelation of just how ignorant he is of Star Wars. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.